We'll just explore our new Master Storytelling Toolkit, which is made up of 6 core tools to help you build powerful meta-narratives for social and environmental change. And I'm really excited about one of the most powerful tools in this whole toolkit, and it is a brand new motivational model, which integrates insight from neuropsychology and applies it to classic motivational theory to come up with something which I think is quite exciting. So why do we need a new motivational model at all? Well, it's clear that we all struggle to bring about real and lasting change on some of the biggest issues that we face today. And this comes down to the fact that we don't know how to work with intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is a form of self-regulated motivation. It leads to long-term behavioral change. The nature of this motivation type is expansive. It can influence and include others. It's the gold standard of motivation. That's the one we all want to be working with. When I first built this motivation model and started working with it, I didn't really pay that much attention to it. It was something in the background that was kind of helpful. But now I use this for absolutely everything and bring everything back to this model, this tool, to sense check that what I'm doing makes sense from an interior perspective. This model offers some profound insights into the human psyche and opens up a whole new world of possibilities, moving from extrinsic and anxiety-based motivation to intrinsic and purpose-based motivation. There are so many practical changes that we can start to implement throughout our work when we use this model. This toolkit gives you a visual foundation on which to build meaningful change. Without it, we're just wandering around in circles, stuck in our paradigm traps, struggling to create the changes we seek. So, okay. How does it work? Well, this is a culmination of a model taken from self-determination theory mixed with insights from neuropsychology. The old motivation model looked a little bit like this, where we have the 4 stages of extrinsic motivation, but when we cross over the threshold to intrinsic motivation, we only have 1 stage. That's a bit odd, isn't it? There's a lot of reasons why this has occurred. But just to say, motivation theory is deeply informed by the sciences. And the sciences are very good at external observation, not so good at understanding interior aspects of the human self. So there is an inherent bias here already, and it's reflected in this truncated motivation model. To understand the interior aspects of the motivation, we need to turn to the humanities, including arts, philosophy, theology, a whole range of different disciplines to help us understand what is going on this side of the motivation continuum. First, we can expand our motivation continuum to include the missing 3 stages of intrinsic motivation. That's a game changer in and of itself, by the way. But secondly, and this is where things get really deep, we can apply insights from neuropsychology to start to map out these different stages and rearrange our whole motivation model in accordance to the values ecology of each hemisphere of the brain. So instead of thinking of motivation in a binary way, where extrinsic motivation, we do something because we have to, or to avoid punishment, or to get a reward, whether that is physical or psychological, and intrinsic motivation is where we do something because we love it. This binary model is not actually that helpful, and it is an oversimplification of what's really going on under the surface of the human psyche. Instead, we can map each stage of the motivation continuum to a power dynamic between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. Back to neuropsychology. There is a power tension between the 2 hemispheres at all time. We can default completely to the left hemisphere, which is represented by the first arrow, which is mapped to extrinsic motivation. Or we can default to the right hemisphere, which is represented by the arrow on the far right. This arrow represents the full values and attention of the right hemisphere, where we don't do something out of utility or we are driven by an extrinsic purpose, but we do something for its own sake. We do art for its own sake, for example. And in this state, there is an inner freedom, and something new and dynamic emerges in this state. And then we can apply the incremental stages between the 2 polar opposites, and this makes up a new motivational model that draws insights from neuropsychology. We can then create different strategies to engage each motivation stage. And this opens everything up. This toolkit you can use to map all of your communications to and see where they sit on the motivation continuum. And then ask, using other tools in this toolkit, why are our communications sitting in certain categories? Did anyone make an intentional decision to do that, or did that just appear automatically? The purpose of this whole toolkit is not to offer answers to the questions we ask, but to find deeper questions to ask. I know that working with clients that almost all of them had never even considered different motivation types in all their work. Motivation was something that you do to make sure you go to the gym or commit to your diet. There was little recognition that everything we do is based on a motivation type, and each motivation type offers different types of outcomes. So making changes here can have a profound impact on our work, and hopefully if we can implement these changes, we will start to see some very interesting results as we move higher up the motivation continuum. So if you're interested, find out more, you can go to our main master storytelling training program or to our bespoke motivation training programs, which are available on our website.